yesterday, which is nice. Like, even with all
That
the
is
video off,
nice.
I've been using Google Docs. So I don't know if you have any familiarity with Google Docs or yeah. I've noticed, like, if I get them to type and give them, like, some extra credit on their next assignment for their responses, that they'll actually do some work.
Oh, I'll have
So
to
you
think
could
about.
try that. Like, it totally worked for me yesterday. So,
I use Zoom on Wednesdays. I'm like that. I'm doing high flex. So I have cohorts and the cohorts rotate through on Mondays and then we Zoom Wednesdays all together so they can see everyone in the class. Not that everyone comes,
oh
but
god.
you and then Fridays are like independent online days essentially. So they have stuff to do online and I normally make a studio video for it that they watch.
Yeah. I like Studio a lot.
I got so used to using that Screencastify, which is really similar last
Mhm.
semester, and I really liked it. So I'm glad we have Studio Video. I think I think it's nice, but I also like that I can see who's watching.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I still use Screencast-O-Matic all the time, just because I've used that for so long, but
I haven't used the Screencastify. I've just been using. I don't like. I can't figure out how to only have me on Studio Video for some of it and then me off for some of it. But it's
there is
like it's
no way that I'm aware of because Studio is Screencast-O-Matic. It's the paid version, and
okay.
and so as far as I'm aware, there is no way to do that.
Because like with the Screencastify, I could be on there some, and then I could take myself off, and then I could go back if I wanted to. So I had like total control over that. Because sometimes like I want to be on the screen or I want to be talking to them, and then sometimes I don't want to be on there at all, but all within the same video.
Yeah. It doesn't have the all the, like, things that we would like for sure to make it
Mhm.
work.
No, but that's okay. I still use it. I still like it.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, we all get used to the platforms we use and just, because we know how to use them and they work and all those things.
Yes.
But
Yes.
otherwise, how is it going? Like, I always try to do, like, since COVID started, I try to do like a check-in, how are you doing? Like, I do this with my first year experience students too. Like, I'll ask them a question, like, what made you happy this week or something like that. But how was your week?
Um, it's been I don't know. It's been a little stressful. My car is in the shop right now. And so um my husband's uh gone out of town and so um
Oh,
I didn't take my kids to school today because we also have an appointment this afternoon in Joplin. And so my mom lives in Joplin. She's gonna come get us and
that's
take
good.
us to the appointment. But so that's just like it's hard not having a support system where you live.
Hmm.
And I've never not lived somewhere where there wasn't family, so that's just kind of like a new challenge.
Yeah, I'm from Minnesota, so I get that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
we don't really have anything like that here. So we've just been on our own the whole time pretty much. We did
yeah.
get lucky though. Peter's brother got a job at Missouri Southern. He teaches in
Oh,
computer science. So we got some support now, which is really, really nice. But of course, he's a professor just like me. So he's also really, really, really busy, especially now. But he does manage to come over on Saturdays and kind of like play with the kids and give us a
that's really
break,
nice.
kind of, sort of.
It's nice to have someone,
Hmm.
and COVID has made it so hard
Oh my God. Yes.
to make connections in the community. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because you can make good friends and they can replace like in some sense those family connections as far as like someone who could have like give given the girls a ride to school, but because of COVID, it's like taboo to see people outside your family unit, and so that's just been I don't it's just that
Yeah.
sucked.
It does suck. I have a colleague in another department whose wife just had a baby, like 2, 3 weeks ago, right? And normally, like, I'd offer, "Oh, hey, you need anything? Oh, I'll bring over some food." But you feel bad about, like,
I
doing
know.
anything, so it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave this on your porch."
I know. You're like, I want to do something for you, please, but also I understand.
Because you have
And
a tiny newborn, and I just yeah.
yeah, but also like having newborns are hard. Like that's hard
Yes,
and exhausting and you need help.
you.
And so yeah, this week is a mixed bag. It's not bad. I submitted a paper or proposal to a conference for the first time ever.
Oh, congrats. Good job. Yay.
So fingers crossed it gets accepted.
What
But
conference? Just out of
um
curiosity.
it is, I can't remember the acronym. It's the, so I want to be a medievalist is the ultimate
Oh,
goal.
I have a friend who is. If you ever want to get connected to somebody who has a PhD in that and teaching somewhere, I know somebody.
Um I might take you, so one of my very best friends in the entire world is Rebecca Mauser. She's the medievalist at Missouri Southern.
Okay.
And so she helps me a lot. It's ICMS, and it's the International Congress on Medieval Studies at Kalamazoo.
Ooh. Oh yeah, the big Kalamazoo conference. My friend goes
Hmm.
to that all the time, so I always hear about the
Yeah, it's the,
Kalamazoo conference. She loves it. She has a lot of fun, so I hope you get in.
I hope I get in, but my friend said like I can still register and go, and Missouri Southern is paying for her car because she is hosting a special session,
Hmm.
and so I can just pay to stay in the dorm with her and still go and see because I've never been to a conference.
Right. I think that's a great experience. Like, even if you don't present, it's really important just to go to one and see
I
what
know.
it's like. And with COVID, hopefully it's you can still go because like I got accepted to one and I have no idea what's gonna happen with it. No
Yes.
idea.
Yes. They haven't decided they're doing, I think right now they are planning for it to be in person with those who want to present um via like online, that they can do that. But uh so I think they're holding out for in person right now. But I don't, who knows what May, it's in May, so who knows what May will look like.
Yeah,
But
mine's in April. So yeah.
um regardless, if it's in person, I'm gonna go because I've never been to a conference and I'm really want to know what one looks like. And um I want to hear what other people are doing. Like I looked at the special sessions and there's a whole bunch of really interesting um like things being presented, and I'm very curious, and they have workshops that sound really cool. And um also I it's, I don't know, it's kind of like if this is my what I want to do with my life, then I need to start going down that path. So, but I'm anxious. I'm very anxious. We will see. I'm not good at writing proposals. They're like my weakness.
It takes time. And every conference I've learned has things that they like to see in a proposal. Like my rule is always like for whatever you're going to argue, have a framework for it, have some theory or methodology behind it, and then have some citations. And
Yes,
you don't have to say a lot about what you're doing, but you just have to make sure that you're joining some kind of conversation in
I
your
did
field.
I did do that. I mentioned like what the scholarship is
Mhm.
on the topic I'm talking about. So like this is what's going on in the scholarship. This is how I want to take it. And then I said I'm going to use Ingalls and Foucault to kind of delve into these ideas about the family unit.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that sounds fascinating. And I love
I'm
Foucault. So,
I do too. And so in Ingalls, he created like the origin of the family. And my idea was about, I'm using like the two old English elegies that have female narrators. And my idea was about how like they're using their voice to subvert the patriarchal control of the men who have like secluded them.
that sounds great. I don't see why
So
everyone would accept that.
I'm just like, cross your fingers for me. I really want to get accepted. So, but I'm very nervous, so we'll see. So that's been my week, a mixed bag. How's your week?
It's been like, I think the same. Like Monday felt okay. And then I felt like as the days went on, I felt like I was falling behind even though I wasn't. Like I just felt like I was not catching up. Like even though I was not behind, it was very strange. And Thursday I felt like it all came to a head and I'm like, oh my God, I have 9 million things to do, right? So and I had meetings and I worked all day and I got everything done, but I was just like, I felt like I was chasing something the whole day.
Oh, I
It
hate
was
that.
just like, but anyway, today is better.
That's great. I'm glad. Did you do that thing where you gave yourself too many tasks
Yes.
and they were like self-created, but they all felt equally
Yes.
important?
Yes. I just should have done some things earlier or just got started. So I'll learn better. Next week, I'll be better. I'll be like, I need to do this on Tuesday or something like that.
Can I say I really appreciate your glossary?
Oh, good. Good. Yes. I'll be adding to that as we work on things. I added dark patterns yesterday because I realized, oh my God, I don't even have a section on that.
So, yes, and I added a couple of things on
Oh,
there after
good.
reading. Um, because I just don't know. They use so many acronyms, and even though like they will eventually sometimes like say what the acronym stands for, I still don't know really what that like means. So
Well, today we're actually looking at videos on some acronyms. So hopefully
okay,
maybe that'll help a little bit. But to start, let's talk a little bit about good design because I had you read that article, and even though they were
yes,
citing that dude, I really didn't care about the dude they were talking about. I cared about, you knew those 10 principles of good design, which
okay,
I listed here so we can have like kind of quick access to them. But I thought to start talking today, we'd talk about something that we think is well designed. And it could be anything. It doesn't even have to be a document. It could be an object or, sometimes people think their house is really well designed or their kitchen or something like that.
um. I will say I think the house I'm renting does utilize space in a really clever and smart way because it's a house that was been built to be a rental house and it's 3 bedroom house and it's a small footprint but all the space is utilized.
That's great. Yeah.
So like there's like I have like the closets are really big and we even have two master or like two closets in the master, but the girls closets are really big. There's two bathrooms. um it's an open concept and I even have a pantry
Oh, I
and a
love
separate.
pantries.
I have never had a pantry and I have a separate laundry room. And like I would say my house is mm, mm, 1,000 square feet or under.
Okay.
So probably I think it's closer to like probably 850 or nine, honestly.
Okay.
And so it's not a big house at all, but it does not feel like anytime you're in a room, the room doesn't feel small.
That's really cool, especially with such small square footage. Because the first house we rented here was about 1,000 square feet. And like when we had the kids, we noticed like, oh my gosh, we're outgrowing this house so much. And
Yes.
now we have, I think our house now is 1,800, and it's like huge to us. Like we have spaces that we don't really utilize.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't this is weird. I will like all my space is utilized. Um, but it's the design is smart. I don't know if this is the best design period. I was trying I don't know if I can um I'm gonna turn my screen around real
Okay.
fast. So I have that. Do you see the lipstick holder thing?
Yeah.
I think I like that a lot actually. And it turns around and it holds like the slots are slightly bigger so it can hold funky size stuff. And I like that it turns because it's easy accessibility. I like that it's clear because I can see everything in it. I like that the slots are larger and the stuff on top I can take take those out and rearrange the holes on the top
Hmm.
to fit whatever I want up there. And I do like that a lot. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. Like I was thinking of like either my phone or my water bottle, I guess. I'm gonna use my water bottle as an
Okay.
example of good design. Like it obviously it holds water very well and it holds a lot. And I like this one little plastic part
Because
of
you can
it.
hold it?
Yeah, so I can hold it, but, like, if it's empty and, like, I'm walking somewhere, I wind it around my purse strap. And
Ah,
so I can just, like, it becomes part of my purse, essentially, and so I can, like, have the kids with me, and walk
yeah,
around with it and not have to hold my bottle of water and grab hands of 2 little kids at the same time, you know?
yes.
So, I mean, in that sense, design becomes, like, it's a not necessarily a part of us, but it's a way that we can interact in the world that's kind of almost flawlessly for us. We find ways to make things last because I'm pretty sure not everybody uses this the same way that I do, but I manipulate it,
Mhm,
to do what I needed to do, and in small ways. Everybody would probably fill it in water or, some kind of liquid. Um,
mhm.
so the 10 principles of good design, did you have any questions on them at all? They're pretty
No,
they're pretty, obvious, I think.
they are they were intimidating, I'm not gonna lie. If I was
Yeah.
creating something, I was like, "Oh, wow."
It's a lot to think of. It's a
It's a
lot to
lot,
think about.
and it's
Um,
all very broad, and it
yeah,
all feels like if you were really striving to do all 10 of those things, like, the design would be good at the end, but, like, it all feels very almost, like, prohibitive in a way, like, to be all of these things to the best extent you can. I don't know.
yeah, I'm gonna talk about usability testing and stuff like that, but you can't get to all these things quickly, I mean, you can't sit down by yourself, for example, and necessarily meet all these criteria. Maybe for just you can, like, if you're designing something for yourself, you could maybe do it, but if you're trying to design it for other people, I think that's much, much harder. So I'm going to show you actually something that happened to me this week in
Okay.
terms of bad design. So I teach a first year experience class, and
Mhm,
it was Wednesday, we had a librarian come to our class, and he has this game on fake news. I don't know if
mhm.
you know about Axe Library's game on it's got fake news. There's these cards. I'm going to show you what it looks like.
Okay.
Um, just because I think it's a really fun game. Oops. Okay, crap. All right, here I am. This is what I hate about Zoom. I try to, like, make things a little bit more friendly, and it doesn't work. Okay, here's the game. So it's called Factual, Fictitious, or For Fun. And he's
Okay.
got like a handheld card game, which is really cool too. And even in socially distanced COVID life, we were able to get small groups and kind of look at the cards because he cleans them off, they're plastic and then stuff
Mhm.
like that, trying to keep them safe. But because we had people on Zoom, we had to do a digital version of the game. So I thought, okay, great. I'll help the kids on Zoom, and we'll do this game together. And so at first, I'm like, "Oh, this looks easy, big blue play button, right? Like, obvious." So I hit this button and I came to this page. And so at first, I'm like, "Okay, so it's just giving me kind of an example." And so I'm just clicking around and trying to figure out where to go, you know? Because
Yeah.
I don't know if you can find a place to go, but it took me a little while. Like, I clicked home again over here, and I just ended up back at the play page. I was just trying to figure out where to go. And then in this section over here, I'm like, well, there's a number one.
Mhm.
Maybe I should click on that. And there it is. There's another example of fake
Um,
news. And then in these buttons in the corner, it tells you, is this factual, fictitious, or for fun? And so it just took
mhm.
my students and I on Zoom a little while to figure out how to even navigate this page because it wasn't clear to us. We're looking all over, we're clicking on things and
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. So that's an example of bad design. I mean, once we made it through, we were like, oh, okay. And it's really clear. Like, for example, this is actually real news. It's just a marketing gimmick that they were using. And so we talked about Business Insider and stuff like that. But that's an example of something that I noticed this week that was kind of poor design, at least for me.
Yeah, it could be labeled more clearly that, like,
Yeah, that's the only
that
thing.
first page is, like, an example of what the pages will look like, and
Mhm.
go here to begin playing the game.
Right, and there was no there's no way to navigate it. Like we didn't have any navigation really. It's just like different places you can click. And so I talked to him, I'm like, you just need to build some navigation in here because we were all kind of like floating around trying to figure out where everybody in the classroom that was playing the handheld game was able to move through way quicker than we
Huh.
were because we were just stuck there trying to
Yeah.
figure out what to do next.
Was he receptive to that?
Yeah, yeah, he's a really cool person. So he's like, yeah. And I guess he's got a student that's been helping him build it. And so he was just like, I have to talk to my student kind of thing. So, and then you feel a little guilty because you're like, oh, I'm making a student do more work. But
But that's something they can put on their CV.
mhm, yeah. And I like the game a lot. And so I hope like other classes can utilize it, and take it to their classes because like fake news is everywhere. I think it's applicable to
Well,
all
not only
kinds of
that,
schools.
like you guys could, he could share that with the high schools in the area,
Mhm,
and the high schools could, because like that's something I would have loved to have as a high school teacher.
mhm.
The idea of having them look at those things, and it's already done, and I don't have to make it.
Right. So
That's like the big thing.
I know because it's so time consuming to create. I mean, just sitting down to write a lesson plan is
Oh my
time
God.
consuming, right?
Yes,
Much less trying to make extra activities for students to kind of work through, because
it
that's
is.
and
And you'd
supplement
have
the
to go
work.
through and find all the articles and
Yeah, super time consuming.
yes, and also then students will want to argue with you, but if it's already that and you didn't make it, then they can't argue with you over your choices, which is kind of nice too.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't something that I made, right?
Yeah. Like I'm not responsible for this content, although I do agree with it.
hmm Yeah, and I thought we could also talk about Canvas in terms of good design because I've had some students don't like Canvas, and it's usually because of the modules. They think the modules get too long for them. They don't like scrolling. Um, there's been some things about the design of Canvas that I've heard students complain about, but there's some really good things about the design of Canvas.
I I like Canvas, and to me, modules getting long isn't a Canvas thing. That's more of a creator thing.
Yes, it's more of the instructor.
And so, I have thought about moving because I break my weeks up like you do into like weekly modules. I think it's so much easier for students. And like I have a weekly module, and then the very first thing under the weekly module is I create a breakdown of every day
Mhm,
of like what they who where we're meeting, like if it's face to face and which group, and like what they're doing in person or what they're doing online, the Zoom, what they're doing independently, their homework. Like I have a set format I use each week.
mhm.
And so I have thought about taking my weeks and putting them at the very top, but then I don't know if that's going to confuse some kids
Yeah, I
because
know
they
I
do have
started
to scroll.
Yeah, I started using Design Plus tools mainly for the homepage, just to make it a little bit more like, these are the modules or these are projects. Like for my tech writing classes, everything's project based. So I just have the homepage as different projects. But the thing is, like, I don't have it divided into weeks there. So I depend on them kind of like, I make a lot of announcements just to remind them, hey, this is where we're meeting or what we're
I
doing.
love the announcements.
hmm
I use that. And I like that I can schedule my announcements.
Yeah, that's so
So
nice.
I schedule announcements for the entire week, like on Monday,
Mhm.
um, and I'll schedule them through Sunday, and so for that upcoming week,
I
and then
do
I
that
don't even
too,
have to worry about it.
right? It just runs itself, and
Yes,
it's beautiful. I love it. I started doing it this semester actually, and I was just like, "Why did it take me so long to do this?" You know?
I got really used to Canvas when we went all online last semester
Mhm.
because, and I didn't use it a whole bunch before. Like I used it somewhat, but I used it more of like a holding place.
Mhm. More like an archive almost of
Archive, yeah, and I would have students submit like essays on there, um, because it was just so much easier to have them do that rather than print them out and hand them in. And I appreciated the timestamp, but like for the day-to-day stuff, I taught, and I gave them paper. They had journals that we used, and so we didn't use Canvas a whole bunch, but I did have like archival information on there. But then when we went online, it was so different, and I had to figure out a way that worked for them
Mm-hmm.
that made sense. And they liked the weekly modules and the breakdowns. So,
Yeah, my students did too when we moved online. Because at first I was teaching a literature class and we had everything like fiction, nonfiction, poetry, all in different modules like that. And since we were meeting face to face, everybody know, oh, we're in the poetry. We'll just find things there. But then when we moved online, I had to do everything in weekly modules. And so everything got moved around. But they like that too, because then they could just go to the week and get the materials.
I think the way you use Canvas is very dependent on what kind of class you have.
Mm-hmm.
If it's all face to face, I think it makes sense to use it more as like an archive.
Yes.
Whereas if it's something that if you're hybrid, or if you are completely online, it needs to be like this very living, breathing thing. So I don't know. I like Canvas overall.
Yeah, out of all, I've used Blackboard. I don't know if you've used any other things besides
I've used
Canvas.
Blackboard, and
Yeah, I don't
I
like
don't like
Blackboard.
it nearly as much. There's so many more bugs. I don't like the fact that I can't assign a due date for peer reviews. I will say that.
Yeah,
There's no due date for peer reviews on
I
Canvas.
for Canvas, so I've never tried peer review on Canvas. Can you assign peer review to more than one student?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, you can control everything. Um, you just click like that peer review, and then you can choose Canvas to automatically assign it, and then you can decide how many. So if you want each person to do 3, you would just type in 3.
Okay.
Or you can set up groups in the people section, set up those groups and just use those groups in the peer review. And then in the assignment, if you click on the assignment and you click on peer review, that's like on the right hand side, you can go in and assign certain students to peer review other students' work if you want even more control, or if you wanted to like punish someone for not doing like
Yeah.
like you didn't do yours on time, so in turn I want you to do 2 more, like, type thing. I don't know, but you have that control.
That's
And
cool.
you can also, so when you click that peer review, you
Yeah.
see each student's name and whose papers they were assigned to review. And the other names, there's like a little reminder bell, and so you can send them a reminder to peer review that.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah,
That
I
is
like
nice.
that.
Overall, I like it. I just wish I could put a due date on it.
Yeah, I understand that. I haven't tried it yet, but I know I'll probably will have to, as this stuff continues and when I go back to teaching a writing to learn class again, I know I'll have to do it.
Yeah. Overall, it went well. So, I mean, I think I'm gonna do it, but I think we did it twice, and since I can't assign a due date, it's kind of confusing for students who don't pay a lot of attention.
Hmm.
So I think next time I'm gonna do it once and then have them go to the writing center.
Yeah, I give them extra credit for the writing center, which for doing that, I'm always surprised more students don't go to the writing center, to be honest with you. But
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna require it. And I'm
yeah,
telling you, I have a whole lot of freshmen who honestly really need it. Just like really need it.
yeah, I've done everything outside of requiring it. And I've been thinking of requiring it for at least one assignment in tech and professional, just like one, just do it one time.
Um, and I think it's my students so Dr. Judd has that really strict no late work policy, which is fine. I'm not complaining about that. And I've adapted it slightly. So I changed it to I'm not accepting late work, but unless you get in touch with me. But I've been a little more flexible because of everything going on.
Mhm.
And I had students who didn't turn in part of their like major assignment, which they need to pass the class. And I
Yeah,
required those students to go to the writing center if they wanted to stay, and they all loved it, and they talked to their other classmates. And then I had some of my other students who they weren't required, went to the writing center because the other students liked it so much.
that's great.
So
Really awesome.
they just like took it upon themselves to go, just
Yeah.
to go, because they wanted a better essay. um I don't know. So yes, I am requiring it. I think a lot of people who teach 101 this semester are requiring it.
Mhm. Yeah, I can totally understand requiring it for something like 101 and even 299, just because of the nature of the work you do and how it's just so foundational for any other future writing intensive classes you take.
Yes, and I always feel like there's a level of apprehension in trying something new,
Hmm.
like going to the writing center, and I think it's hard to be vulnerable, and showing your writing to someone is
Well, yeah, it's
doesn't
personal.
it's
Even if
personal.
it's,
It makes you
yeah.
vulnerable, and so it's hard, especially going there knowing you're going to get critiqued and they're not even your teacher. And so by requiring that, it kind of gets rid of that initial apprehension, because then they've already done it once.
And
So
it's a fellow student who's critiquing you too. It's not like, in some cases, I guess it's not always, but
not always. You can request like Zepernick if you want.
yeah. I'm actually terrified of having Janet look at my writing.
Well, I'm in her medieval class, and she currently has an essay right now, and I am very terrified.
Yeah, I would be too. I do not blame you at all. Um,
So
so anyway, let's talk a little bit about accessibility and usability. Did you have any questions about those two terms? Because I have a couple of videos to show, and I want to make sure to get to them, but I also want to make sure that you have an opportunity to ask any questions about accessibility or the term usability.
no, those make sense, and those are terms I've heard before.
Okay, good. I figured as much, especially as a teacher. I figured
Yeah.
that you'd have some idea of that. Good. So I'm going to play two videos. The first one isn't very long. It's just basic principles of UX design, and I'm only showing part of it because he gets into skills you need to be a UX designer, and it's just like you don't need to know that. The other video talks about user experience design and how it's broken down. And so I just wanted to share these with you and with the rest of the class as well, because we're not actually going to do any user experience, but it's useful to think about in terms of web design. So I'm just going to play these videos. Um, and I had them loaded up, I think. But
My name is Abdul. I wanted to become a
this
doctor
is not the
because
video.
I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Decided to learn code to create a medical startup. Academy Pro not only
Okay, skip ads.
levels of UX design.
Can you hear it?
Foundation number
Okay. All right, good deal.
Oh, I love crash course videos.
I do too, but it's not with the fungi. It's with this other dude. So, but I
That's
do like
okay.
Crash Course generally. This is UX Crash Course. So, it's a John Green. John Green is the one that does the literature videos. I love
Yes, he does.
him.
one is that your product should be useful. Your content should be original and it should fulfill the need of the user. Number two is that a product is usable. It should not only be easy to use, but enjoyable to use. Number three is that your product is desirable. UX design is not graphic design or UI design, but it does make sure that all of those visual components come together to make the product desirable. Number four is that your product is learnable. Every product should be navigable and simple, and the user should be able to learn it while they're using it. Number five is that a product is memorable. A user should be able to walk away and come back to the application next time and be able to pick it right back up like riding a bicycle because it's so familiar. Number six is that your product should be accessible to those who have disabilities. Number seven, your product needs to be credible. Users need to be able to trust and believe that what you tell them is true, so therefore where you lead them is good.
Okay, so those, I just really wanted you to see those 7 parts. It's got to be useful, functional. in that sense. Usable, people got to move through it well, desirable, learnable, all those things, those 7 principles. Along with that, are you gonna let me exit out of this? I'm gonna stop sharing because that's obnoxious. That's the only thing that I hate about Zoom. It's like it won't let me do that. Okay. And the other video, and probably the better one, talks about UX and UI design, which UI is user interface design. UX design is user experience design. And you disappeared. Okay. Sorry, I'm having technical issues. Okay. I am just
It's
gonna
okay.
open that up again. Okay. I lost my Windows and it was very, very annoying.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to play this one. This one is probably the better one. He goes over the process of user experience design, which I think is kind of cool. And I don't do all of these in my classes because I just
a graphic designer
can't.
from Buenos Aires. I wanted to connect the dots
But
between
it's
the design I
still
was doing and programming.
a
So I
good
decided
description
to
of
try
it.
out Code. Here we have a nice looking landing page.
Okay, here, I need to make sure this is sharing with you. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. There we go.
Here we have a nice looking landing page for a fictional travel company. Your average person might just think a UI designer or a web designer created this, but in reality, the UI designer is just one part of the puzzle. A UI designer is interested in stuff like topography, ensuring that they're adhering to good topography fundamentals. They're interested in white space or negative space, which is what gives a user interface its structure between elements. They're also interested in colors and ensuring appropriate contrast for both usability and readability. They're also interested in icon and illustration design. They're also responsible for ensuring that the user interface looks good on all devices. But the UI designer's role is only just a part of a small section of user experience design or UX design. UX design is a process that has many parts and usually starts with research. So research can be composed of understanding, like conducting user interviews to identify the requirements, user personas, which represents a typical user to identify their goals and frustrations, use cases, how might different people use this product or service, and the creation of journey maps, which is how a user might start and finish the experience. So as you can see, the end result of a UI design is nowhere near to be found during this process. Next up, we have brainstorming, which includes creating user flows, which are diagrams that outline the steps a user might take during the experience as they go from step to step in the UI, and wireframes, which is just a rough skeleton representation of the UI and the various components that make up that UI. After that, we have implementation, and this is where a UI designer would come into effect. They create prototypes, and these can be low or high fidelity prototypes, which may or may not be interactive. And also front end and back end development, in being that once these prototypes are approved, developers make the prototype a working product. Next up, we have reporting. So once it has been implemented, the product or the service, you can have usability reporting, which can involve observing real users using the actual product through a variety of means. This can include split testing, which is testing the effectiveness of one design iteration over another, and analytics reporting, which helps you gain additional insights such as time spent on pages, bounce rates, and more. So UX design is a process, and it's usually a sequential process, but it doesn't just end at reporting. It's something that continually occurs in order to improve the overall experience. So you may be wondering to yourself, if UI design is just a subset of UX design, then doesn't that make a UX designer a UI designer? Well, the answer is it depends. And it depends on a few factors. For instance, if you're a freelancer and you're a one-man show taking on everything, then yeah, you're a UX designer and you are a UI designer simultaneously. And chances are, even if you weren't aware of what experienced designer has meant in the past and you built projects, you were still assuming a lot of the roles of what a UX designer would do. Likewise, if you're working with a big company that has a lot of resources, then they could have an entire team that makes up the whole UX design process, and each person has their own specialties. So going forward in this channel, I'm going to spend a lot more time focusing on these other areas outside of just UI design and start covering the whole process of experience design. So if you want to follow along with this ride,
Okay, that's all you really need to see. But hopefully that helps kind of explain a little bit to you about things like UX, UI. Do you have any questions about that at all?
Not right now.
Okay. So for example, when I teach this stuff, I actually have them do, it's almost like I'm working backwards as to what he described. Like I'll have students to decide a website they want to look at. And usually I try to have them pick something that's not like insane, like Facebook, for example, because there's so much you can do with Facebook, you know what I mean? They could focus on one part of it, but then it's like, it also takes on the entirety of it over time.
I'm sorry, hold
So,
on. Okay.
hello.
Can you give me just a little bit more?
I don't have much more time, so it's okay.
Sorry. Here, just give me a minute. Yes, it's Mimi's. You can wear it to Mimi's. Okay. Give me a minute. Get your shoes off the. Okay. I'm sorry.
It's okay. My kids, like maybe 15 minutes ago, were like pounding on the door, like yelling, "Mommy!"
I didn't hear him. I did not hear him.
That's good. I thought, oh my gosh. I think it's because I'm just using the audio on my computer and I don't have a microphone. I'm pretty sure if I had an actual microphone, you would have heard that. But anyway, where was I? Okay, so I usually kind of work backwards from that. And I have them pick like a restaurant website, for example, something that's not too intense. And then they usually will develop personas like he talked about. And then they'll do the usability testing, and then they'll kind of figure out ways to our version of wireframing.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I don't really have too much left. So I just really wanted you to see that because it kind of explains those two terms.
No, I liked those videos.
Yeah, I do too. So otherwise, did you have any questions about like the list apart reading the audience outcomes and determining user needs was really just kind of like an outline of all those things that we kind of saw in those videos a little bit. It talks about personas in that reading. So I just wanted to make sure that you kind of understood some of that, ask if you had any questions about that.
I think that's the one I've read 3 of the 4 so far, and I think that's the one I've started, but I haven't quite finished. Is it talking more about like backward, like end design?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's talking about that stuff. So that's okay. I think there's things there that there might be some terms, and if there's a term in there that you're confused in that they don't define well, just type it into the glossary, and I'll define it. And I'll look at the glossary later today too.
I think the terms that I had questions about came from the accessibility one.
Okay, yeah, that I can handle for sure.
So, and I think they just use some I didn't know what an AI or ARIA.
I'm not even sure. I'd have to go back and look.
So that's fine. I typed it on there.
Okay, I'll make sure to define it. I'll go back to the source and look at it.
I think my favorite one was the one about the principles of good design, and
yeah.
I did like that a lot. And then I liked that he brought up like the ethicalness of like apps, really, right?
Yes.
And so I thought it was interesting, and I feel like I've read different articles over the past few years about like the ethicalness of creating such a like clickbaity type app, or like how Facebook has like the limitless scroll.
Yes.
and like maybe companies shouldn't try to monopolize user time in that way.
Or even user data, like just the ways that they use user data is pretty unethical. I mean, I don't
Yes.
even know how else to describe that besides unethical. I was reading a news source this week, and you actually had to opt out of them selling your data. Like you had to click on something to opt out, and it came up as a pop-up at the bottom, which would have been easy to like minimize and
Mhm.
ignore, but I happened to just read it. And it had this link on it, like click here to opt out of us selling your information or something. Like it was pretty clear what they were going to do. And I'm like, I'm opting out. And I wish I had taken a screenshot because like I had never seen or noticed anything. And that's actually an example of a dark pattern, which we'll read about next week.
The-
But I wish I had taken a screenshot because it's such a good example of a dark pattern. I'll have to try to open it up in a different browser and see if I get the same thing or
Yeah.
on my home computer because I was on my work computer and I saw it. But did I lose you? I think I maybe did. Okay, well, I'm just gonna, oh no, you came back. I think I lost you just for a minute. All right.
You're back.
Well,
Yeah, you were like so frozen.
oh, okay. Oh no. Well, I just got notification that my internet connection is unstable. So I'm on Wi-Fi. So
Okay,
I'm probably just gonna end this because I'm thinking my husband's probably playing a game online.
that could be it. Who do you have your internet through?
Cox.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, there'll be a post on Monday, and I put together another doodle poll. But
Okay.
if this time works, we can keep it. Or if you want to sign up for another time or no times at all, if nobody signs up, I'm just going to make a video up probably on Thursday morning or Thursday before I leave work. And
I'll look at it. It's so Zepernick's also doing this for Medieval, and so I never know what time she's gonna pick, and so like
okay.
it's so hard because I don't want it to be at the same time.
I understand. So I just put together another doodle poll. It will not hurt my feelings if there's nobody signed up or anything, but I will make sure to make some kind of video and have an agenda and probably some videos, and I'll just open up a Zoom and record everything. And
Okay.
even though there's nobody here, I can still do that.
Okay. So I mean, I'll probably do the doodle poll and see. I mean, I do like having the conversations and getting to ask like actual questions, but I will say I'm very grateful for your glossary.
Okay,
I
that's
thought that was so
good.
nice. Dad and I actually talked about how nice that was. So
Yeah, I'm going to keep adding to it, and I'll go and look at it and add those descriptions of the terms you added. But yes, I thought it would be a good idea since, we don't have a lot of, I think I'm the only one who teaches digital anything in English.
I
So,
think you might be.
or at least focuses on it completely like this. I think everybody does maybe a little bit, but I'm just like, yay. So anyway, I think on
Do
those,
that do a little bit.
yeah. I mean, I know Celia does a little bit of stuff with usability design and stuff like that. I know she's
That
done
makes
that.
like McCallum didn't even have a video camera or a microphone
Somebody
last
didn't have
semester.
a cell phone, I found out. Like one of my colleagues had to go out and buy a mobile phone. I was like, I can't. Like
Wait,
they had to
what?
buy a
Someone didn't have
smartphone.
a cell phone?
I'm not sure. It might have been Susan. I'm not sure who it was, but
Really?
yeah, like that's
She
what
has kids?
I don't know who it was. I just had Shannon say somebody bought a cell phone during COVID because they had to.
Was it Judd?
I have no idea. I don't know.
I don't
Shannon,
know. I've never seen any of them with a cell phone, so I can't say for sure.
I should probably stop recording.